Hello, everyone. My name is Austin Wagner, and recently I posted a video talking a little bit about OCD, what OCD actually looks like, and also what my experience with that was. And got a lot of really good feedback, and even got a request from a friend here to kind of talk about her experience with OCD. So today I'm going to talk with Julie Ray about her experience. Thank you so much for being willing to do this. I'm nervous, but really excited to talk. So thanks, Julie.
Yes, no problem. Thank you for having me, and hello to everybody who's going to watch this. Um, I'm glad to share my experience and hopefully give somebody some hope.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I'm kind of just gonna jump in right into it and ask like an icebreaker question. Um, so for those of us that have OCD, we have themes that kind of come and go and change, but we all have at least one that doesn't really ever leave us. And so the icebreaker question for you, Julie, is what is your ride or die?
Ride or die. That's what we call it. It's kind of funny. Yeah, my ride or die is definitely harm.
Mm,
In all aspects. It started my OCD started with that. Um, in the sense of having to protect everybody from harm.
mhm.
And then my OCD turned into I am the one who is causing harm. So that's been always with me, still with me. And I don't think it'll ever leave, but we've got a relationship now, and I know how to handle it.
Yeah, yeah. So how long have you had how long have you had OCD? Like, has it been your whole life, or did you have a
My
point
whole
where,
life.
yeah.
No, I've never been a one to have it kind of go and have it come back and that kind of thing. Um, I mean, so looking back, I've always had OCD. Like looking now that I know, what it is and the signs and things like that, I can date it back into when I was a kid.
Mhm.
I do remember doing my first compulsion and kind of thinking like, oh, what was that? Like, why did I just do that? Um, and then it never left from there. The compulsions were always present. So that first one I remember per se was at least 10 years ago.
Mm, yeah. So, okay. Yeah, and like having OCD and not knowing what it is terrifying. What was that
Yes.
like before? I guess I'm kind of asking two questions here, but like when did you actually find out that you had OCD, and what was it like before you had that diagnosis?
So mine's kind of a weird scenario. Because I knew once I did that compulsion, all my compulsions are mental. So,
Mhm.
um, I knew once I did that, it was something weird. And the fact that I couldn't stop after, um, I knew what OCD was in the sense of, having to flip the light switch, X amount of times or
Yeah.
touch something the right way or that kind of thing. So, like, I actually kind of figured it out on my own that that's probably what it is.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't get like actually diagnosed and start therapy or anything until last year. So I
Mm.
always kind of treated it as this is my quirk and this is what I have to do type thing. And I never thought there was a way out of it, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
So I just kind of figured I had to live with it. So I just kind of carried it by my side this whole time.
Mm.
Um, but I will say my thoughts, my categories also didn't really, I don't want to say turn against me, but got, more fearful until last year also.
Mm.
Like they were always kind of magical thinking, I had to do things a certain way. I had to say phrases in my head. I had to flip scenarios, flip thoughts, like, um, all for 10 years until last year. And then that's when the real fear and scariness of it all started for me. So that's when I went to therapy and was officially diagnosed.
Mm, yeah. Are you willing to, or are you comfortable at all kind of talking a little bit more about what you mean when you say that it got a little more scary?
Yeah, definitely. So my whole OCD for the 10 years was about I had the fear that my loved ones were going to die.
Mm,
So essentially, I would have to replace these bad thoughts with good thoughts. And I would have to repeat phrases to me that, made them okay, made them safe.
hmm
I had to do certain things, to protect them, things like that. Last year, I saw a sign in the doctor's office that triggered me and changed my whole thoughts. So then I
mm,
got the thought of, well, what if it's me that harms them? What if it's me, that doesn't keep them safe and brings danger to them? And I never knew OCD could do that. So that
yeah.
was a side of OCD I didn't really know was a thing and that could
hmm
happen to someone. So that that really made me hit my rock bottom. That really made me question who I am as a person. Would I ever do that? And once I figured it out, oh no, I wouldn't. OCD would come in and say, well, what if this? Well, what if that? And,
Yeah,
you know how it works. OCD changes the way it approaches you.
sure.
Um, and that brought me to intense fear. Um, like more than I ever thought physically possible. And that made me hit my rock bottom.
Mm. Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I definitely resonate too. Like, for me, it started off when I was younger with contamination stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm going bald. That was my
I
big
remember
one.
you
Is
said that in the other video. It's like we laugh, but at the time it's so scary.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And it feels so real. Like I know for
Hmm.
me, it's like, and I'm wondering if you have this experiences. I definitely, when it comes to harm, I definitely have those questions of like, am I capable of that? Do I actually want those things? But then for me, sometimes I also get that experience of like, oh my gosh, it's happening. It
Yep.
feels like it's actually like things are crumbling beneath me. Like, what's that like? What's that been like for you? Like, how have you
It's
dealt with
the
that?
scariest thing I've ever come to face with. Um, I mean, so anxiety, like what people don't understand, right, is that these thoughts, am I capable of that? Would it ever happen? You get this, what people call, chemical storm. So your anxiety sets in, your body goes into fight or flight, um, all these things to try and protect you. So what happened to me a lot was I would twitch.
Hmm
Like just from the anxiety or like my hands would shake, right?
hmm
Um and my OCD would be like, "Oh, is that you like reaching your arm out to hurt someone? Did you just
hmm
twitch because you were gonna hurt someone? Are you even safe around these people? Like you probably shouldn't be around these people. You want to do it, you're gonna do it." And all these different, it's a sensation thing too,
Yeah.
because it's hard to separate when your body is feeling one thing and you have to, keep your mind straight and say, this is just chemicals, when it feels like you're gonna jump out of your skin,
hmm
when everything in your body tells you one thing, you're supposed to keep your mind the other direction.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's so hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Sorry.
people understand too much of that side of OCD because I didn't either, to be honest with you, until mine turned in that direction. I had no idea. I had no idea OCD could do that.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. It's. crazy making. And I hear a lot sometimes about people, they talk about like how sometimes, what am I trying to say? We hear a lot that people with OCD kind of can tell, like, oh yeah, I know that this is like crazy or crazy, whatever the hell that means, or this sounds really weird, but it feels real. And again, I know for myself, sometimes I really believe it. And I think that
Oh yeah.
that's something too to like really hone in on is, yeah, sometimes we have the insight, but other times we really think that this is like, I do want to kill somebody or whatever it might end up being for that person. Has that been that case for you as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's it's difficult because, when all these things happen, right? And you have the thought. So then comes the chemical wash and then comes all the anxiety and it's not just about having a thought and being like, "Oh, that's weird." It's your whole body reacting. And like why wouldn't you think that's real? What your body's telling you something and you think you're supposed to listen to it. So then, I kind of describe it as like a curtain, right? So then when that happens, then you get this like curtain in front of your eyes. And you can't fighting with OCD, it doesn't work. So
Yeah.
you can't prove to it that this is not true, this is not real, blah blah. So you kind of get like a shade in front of you and you can't see reality for a few minutes or weeks or however long the thought stays with you
Mhm.
because it feels like it might be true.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, if it's not true, if I let down my guard, then
Mhm.
what if it happens because, I'm
So
not
now I
listening
don't
to it.
care.
And I don't, and
Yeah.
it's like so and I've never had that like curtain feeling
Mhm.
until last year. Like I never had that with my magical thinking.
Mhm.
So it's scary. It's scary when your body is reacting to something and you cannot convince yourself that it's not true. When you know in your logical brain this is not going to happen, the chemicals in your body are telling you that it might.
Mhm.
And it's extremely extremely hard when you have that curtain that you can't really get the clarity in that moment.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've heard like I don't know if you're familiar with who Chrissy Hodges is, but she calls it like the OCD haze. It's like this
Yeah.
this mist, this fog that just drops over everything.
Yep.
Everything you see your obsession in everywhere you go. I mean, it's
Yep.
just yeah. Yeah. Um well, and you talking too about like only just recently, within the last year, like finding out, like, how was that like before knowing, like, what was it like navigating relationships with like your family and stuff? Because, I know for myself, reassurance and asking my friends and my family was a big thing, and that was really like taxing on my relationships. And so, like, yeah, how did that affect you?
Honestly, so my family had no idea I had OCD until last year.
Mm,
My husband, who's been married to me for 7 years, just found out last year.
mm,
So, in a sense, like I'm thankful it didn't affect them, really too much. I mean, I definitely asked for assurance, but I think my husband just kind of took it as like that's a quirk of hers. Like she needs to, always ask, all these things, and I just keep giving it to her. Like it didn't really bother him too much. Um, I think it might have bothered him in the sense of not only was like I assurance asking, like some of my compulsions would be, we can't go to this place because this happened here and that means it's going to happen to me,
mhm,
or we can't, buy that couch because it's this color and that's a bad color. So
mhm,
things like that definitely affected him because kind of takes away his freedom too, in a
Hmm.
sense. Um, but luckily, not until last year is when it really affected him. Last year, when I was at my rock bottom, it affected my whole family.
Hmm.
I mean, I was at the level I couldn't get up. I couldn't eat. I was having panic attacks every day, throwing up. Um, you know, I couldn't go to the grocery store without having a panic attack.
Hmm.
I was just so consumed by it. So at that point, it really kind of took a toll on him because we have a child, we have a 4-year-old child, and he had to take most of those responsibilities. I took a leave of absence from work, so
Hmm.
financially, that didn't help us. My mom had to sit here and watch me fall apart and not be able to do anything to help me.
Mm.
So last year, it really took a toll on my family.
Yeah.
But before that, it was just kind of like, oh, she's quirky. She's
What
got
did it
she's got
what
some
did it
weird
look
stuff
like
going
for you
on.
before? Because you mentioned like magical thinking and stuff like that. And I think that's another thing with OCD that people don't get is like the or would you be willing to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so my magical thinking was, um, if I don't put the shower curtain to the right side, somebody's gonna die. If I
Mhm.
don't, open the microwave before it hits 1 minute, somebody's gonna die. If I wear, if I put my son in the color blue, he's gonna die.
Mhm.
If I, have a bad thought about one of them and I don't replace my head with a good one, something bad's gonna happen to them.
Mhm.
Um, so it was more or less, yeah, thinking that somehow the shower curtain had a role in my loved ones' lives.
Mhm.
But it's that whole thing, it's like, okay, you've done this for 10 years.
Mhm.
So in my mind, yeah, maybe it does. And so it's like, do I want to take the chance and not put the shower curtain? Do I want to chance it? You know?
Mhm.
And so that's what's hard with magical thinking because it can be so many things.
Yeah.
If I don't touch something a certain way, if I use the wrong pen, if I wear this shirt, it really consumes your life in that sense.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that, and thanks too for sharing about kind of, how a year ago how it debilitating it was. I mean, I felt myself getting a bit emotional just listening because no, knowing that kind of pain is just it's awful, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And yeah, no, I resonate a lot with
Yeah.
that.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, I never knew OCD could be like that. I never
Yeah.
knew, one thought could completely destroy you,
Hmm.
and um it stinks. It really does because it is so debilitating and I don't think people understand that when we're in this, in this theme or in this thought and the toll it takes on your body, like your body is in fight or flight.
Hmm.
And the fear, like I have never been more scared in my life for my own sanity, my own mind. I've,
Hmm.
never been so fearful to sit next to my child, and I never knew it could be like that. And the people that have it, I mean, we're warriors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be having a panic attack and just keep walking, how like
I know.
we're supposed to keep moving and feel all these things and it's like people don't understand how hard it is to have all these things running through your body and just make it through the grocery store, like honestly.
Just getting dressed sometimes, like walking
Like
downstairs.
literally.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it makes me think too of like there are a lot of times, I have shared with people about like what's going on, and they're like, oh, just just don't worry
Don't think
about it.
about it.
Don't, oh, wow. Thank you.
Wow, I
Like,
wish I could do that.
oh, yeah, yeah. And like, the level of shame that I think we can feel too about like,
Yeah,
I mean, how ridiculous some of it can be, not to make light of it all or make fun of anybody, it's just like it can feel so ridiculous to be like, yeah, if the shower curtain's not this way, then this thing is going to happen and then I'm going to be responsible for it,
right.
or maybe I'm even going to go to prison for that, that's where it goes for me a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, and telling people that and then being like,
What?
what?
And that's the thing.
It's
I think
yeah.
that's why it's so, um, OCD is just kind of coming around because compulsions are they are ridiculous. And
Mhm.
I laugh about it because I've done them and I still do them, but from somebody looking on the outside, it really does seem silly.
Mhm.
And it's so easy for people to be like, "Oh, just don't think about it," or just put stop flicking the lights, like just go to bed. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, let me just do that. Just 1 second. Like,
You don't have to figure out why you had that thought of stabbing somebody in the stomach.
you
You
don't
don't
have to
have
figure
to. Yeah. You sure? Yeah. Yeah.
it. Are you sure I won't get caught though?
Yeah. Yeah. What if somebody knows about that? What do they
What
find
if
out?
somebody knows that I'm thinking this and then calls the cops? Like,
Oh, gee.
oh, it's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. Um, well, I guess then, I'm kind of also curious then too. So, you know, y- we're a year ago, you're kind of at like the lowest point that OCD's brought you to. How did you find, yeah, tell us a little bit about like how you found out that you actually had OCD, like the diagnosis, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I ended up signing up for therapy because I'm like I can't live like this anymore.
Mhm.
And not only that, but like am I gonna live through this?
Yeah.
How my body's breaking. I'm it's taking a toll. So, I signed up for therapy at this one place. I got diagnosed there. They said I had, OCD. Explained to me, the cycles and how it all works and why my brain is programmed like this and all these things. I ended up leaving them and then I went to NoCD
Hmm.
for therapy. And then that's when I actually started ERP therapy
Hmm.
is with them. So I didn't start with them until like June of last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so pretty almost a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just realized
Next
I'm
month.
how many.
Nice.
It's almost June.
Yeah. Oh, how did it feel to like start ERP? Because that's ERP's fucking rough. It's
For
great in the
me,
best way,
it's
but it's tough.
yeah, I mean, scary as hell because like we said, the chemicals wash that you have. So everything in your body is telling you to put a guard up, to run away, to, protect all these people from danger. And ERP tells you go sit right next to them. It's like, how am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to do that? And ERP tells you bring these emotions with you. Be scared as hell and still get up and go to work. Have anxiety running all throughout you and still go to your kid's soccer game.
Hmm.
And to take, like, I was resisting it for so long, so long. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? So to take that leap and just be like, okay, I'm going to do it, like, see what happens. That was the hardest part for me is realizing, okay, I need to bring more of these bad thoughts and I need to, let myself think of it all and I need to put myself in these situations. Like I'm like, there's got to be a different way. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But I remember it was Thanksgiving. And I was sitting here dying on my couch, being like, I can't even get up and like go to my family's party. Like I can't do this because what if this happens? What if this happens? What if I have a panic attack in front of all of them? How am I gonna explain that?
Mm,
You know, what if I end up in the psych ward and I get carried away? You know, just all this stuff. So I finally was like, all right, we got to do this. I got up, got dressed. I was like, whatever happens today, happens today. It was almost kind of like, just giving up in a sense of like, I don't care anymore. I either need to do this or I sit here and suffer for the rest of my life. So if I have a panic attack and, or if I get carried away by the police to a psych ward, then so be it. But I'm gonna try it.
yeah.
So it was really that turning point when I just finally got up and did the hard thing.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I
You're like
love
smiling
that.
like you remember, like you remember what
Oh,
it was like.
well, I mean, shoot, I mean, I still even have that now in ERP where they're like,
Oh, for
certain
sure.
things where it's like, I think one thing that I think of that's like really important, especially when it comes to this, is like courage, and I hear so much courage in that, like, I mean, again, for people that don't have OCD, they're never going to understand what it's
No.
like to feel like I'm if I go to I'm going to go to Thanksgiving dinner and things are going to fall apart and I'm going to end up in jail or I'm going to end up in the psych ward or a million other things. I'm going to stab my mom in the stomach. I'm going to try to have sex with my grandma. Like what
Literally
whatever.
so many. Yep.
And again, like that really feeling real, um yeah, it's like it just takes so much courage to say I'm gonna take a risk.
I'm gonna risk it. I'm
Like,
gonna risk it all right now.
yeah.
All on the line. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really ERP is really about finding courage in yourself.
Mm.
And not only that, if these things don't happen, like if you don't have sex with your grandma, it's fine.
Right.
But like if they do happen, if you do have a panic attack, that you'll be okay.
Hmm.
You'll have the courage to then come out of it.
Hmm.
And that was hard. Yeah, that was extremely hard because I had lost all courage. I had lost all faith in myself. And I had to build all that back up.
Yeah.
And it's really, as they say in ERP, the only way out is through.
Hmm.
And that's truly it. The only way past all your demons is facing them head on.
Hmm.
It's no easy way,
No. No.
unfortunately. I'm like, I will dive into the Matrix right now and take the red pill, like the blue pill, like whatever. Like, just get me out of this. Like,
Right. Yeah. No, I feel that for sure. For sure. Yeah, so could you talk a little bit now, Julie, about like what it's like now after kind of having done a little bit of ERP or been in it for about a year? Um, yeah, what's it like managing it OCD for you? Yeah.
it's like walking a freedom trail in hell,
Mm,
if that
tell
makes
me
sense.
more.
So, I mean, so you're never gonna get rid of OCD, which was a hard thing for me to accept that this is part of me, whether, I like it or not. You will have triggers. I still, I get triggered all the time. Um, but it's freedom. I never was able to have a thought and just let it go. And I was never able to wear what I want, do what I want. I could never just look at the sky and soak up the sun without having to repeat everything in my head, flip stories. Like I have never felt peace until now.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that we take for granted, peace. But and I don't feel it all the time. It's still a thing that comes and goes, but I
Mhm.
have never felt pure peace. until I faced all these things. I've never felt more confident in myself. I've never felt like I can handle things, in a regular way, um, until now. And, I think sometimes you have to break so you can be put back together differently.
Mhm.
And, I'm not excited that all this happened to me and I had to go through it, but at the same time, I, life now is just I can do what I want. I can have thoughts come and go and I cannot be bothered by them.
Mhm.
And I can know that regardless of whether I end up in the psych ward, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna make it through just how I always have.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And I think it's so true. Like, yeah, it's I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
No.
But also I think that and I'm sure I would imagine that you likely agree is that people with OCD are some of the most kind, understanding, compassionate people.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool community. And I really don't know that we would be that way if if it wasn't for the fact
It
that
wasn't for
we
OCD.
feel chronically guilty.
I
Uh,
no, I mean, I've met so many amazing people and I honestly I don't know how I would have made it without them. It's so easy being in this community and saying, "Oh, I'm having this," and they're like, "Yeah, welcome to my life." Like they understand, like, they understand that it's not your fault, and that putting your pants on in the morning is just the hardest thing sometimes, just to face the day. And these people are truly, truly warriors, honestly. And I'm glad to have known everybody, and I think we got some lifelong friends here for sure.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What was it like for you the first time that you actually laughed at an intrusive thought? Can you remember that?
Oh yeah, so I mean, so once I got more friendly with harm, I I do laugh at it now. And it sounds so like not okay. But like I'll have an image, I'm like chopping vegetables and I have this huge sharp knife and I'll have an image and I'm just gonna turn around and stab someone. And I just literally go, LOL, wouldn't that suck? And yeah, it's so weird because it's, not socially okay to probably like do that, but it feels good. It feels good just to laugh about it instead of worry about it for the next 6 months. You know,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's the thing too. Like these things don't just take you down for a few minutes. Like it's days and weeks and months, and it's weird to laugh about it, but it's freedom. That's
Mhm.
exactly what freedom is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, we are everybody that's a human being gets intrusive thoughts. Um, and it blows my mind that there are people out there that for their entire lives could just be like, that was weird. And, like
Imagine that. Like I don't even know.
for me, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm attracted to children. Oh my gosh, what? Like,
Children, dogs, chickens.
if it moves, if it doesn't move, yeah,
Anything
yeah,
that moves, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's it's
It does blow my mind, listening to people. I remember this one time I was like deep in my harm thoughts, and we were at my husband, my son's soccer game, and there was this mom yelling at her kid, and she was like, "I have to leave. I have to get away from you because I feel like I'm just gonna strangle you." And I was like, meanwhile, I'm sitting here losing my mind because I'm so fearful of that, and she's just saying it like it's a regular Tuesday.
yeah.
I'm like, what? People can just do that. Like, and I mean, meanwhile, that's probably not. exactly right to say to your child, but at the same time, people just have them and they're just like, whatever, and they move on with their life. And it's like, man, to be able to have a thought and just, get in the car and drive home. That's
Hmm.
crazy to me.
Hmm. And I would say that, like, it sounds like you're in the same position. It's like, maybe not every single one that comes in I can do that with, but I feel like, it's definitely we can do that a lot with a lot more grace.
Yes. Yes. I mean, there's definitely still ones that I catch myself, ruminating about. I was definitely ruminating for like an hour today, and I finally was like, okay, drop it. Drop it.
Hmm.
But,
Hmm.
it's that initial, once you get the thought, maybe that you haven't had before. ERP is like you get the thought and immediately, instead of just it being your downfall, you say, all right, am I gonna let this stick or am I gonna move on? And ERP gives you those first few seconds to decide what you're gonna do.
Hmm.
And, then you either tackle it or you don't. And sometimes I still have ones that I let get to me. And then sometimes I have others that, I'm just like, oh, y'all better run. I'm coming,
Bring it on. Give me more.
So, I mean, yeah, and it's, that's how OCD is, and it sucks. It really does suck, but it makes you also see the beauty in things.
Mm.
Because I have noticed when I am not anxious and I'm just kind of moving along, I'm like, oh, this is weird. Is this what life is?
Mm.
And I haven't had that. I haven't had that as long as I can remember. So we take the bad with the good, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, so I guess just before we kind of move into the last part here, I'm wondering, like, how do you know when, because we still all have bad days. Some of us, we even have bad weeks at times before we catch ourselves.
Yep.
How do you know? How do you catch yourself? And, like, yeah, what usually helps you kind of pull yourself out of that spiral that can be so easy to go down?
Right, right. I mean, so my bad days look like a few things. Look like either extra anxiety, like I'm just anxious. Sometimes even now I'll wake up and I'm anxious and I'm like, why? And so my OCD is trying to find out reasons why or make reasons why, and or I'm super depressed and I just want to lay on the couch and sleep. And I try and remind myself the only way out is through. And so I'm gonna be anxious. All right. Well, let's get up and do something with that anxious energy you got. Let's work out. Let's clean the house. Let's do something with it.
Hmm.
Because I know if I push it down, if I push it away, if I try and fix it, if I try and find a reason why it's there, I end up spiraling 100 times worse. So
Hmm.
we let it be there and we keep going. Same thing with the depression side of OCD as well. I have a child. I can't lay on the couch. I gotta get up.
Hmm.
So, we go for a walk, I play with him, I do give myself some time, I'll sit on the couch and watch a show for like, a half an hour, whatever. But
Right.
at the end of the day, it's like you're gonna have bad days, but you can't let the bad days win. You can't. And when everything in your body tells you you can't do this, you show up anyways and you keep it
Hmm.
moving because your mental wellness relies on that and you have to.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
stinks, some people don't have to do that. And,
Hmm.
awesome for them, but I know my mental wellness relies on me showing up. And so
Hmm.
that's what I have to do, regardless of what I feel like inside.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's kind of like the nature, or like the root of ERP is, like,
Yeah,
like you said, do it anyway.
just do it.
You're anxious as hell. You feel like you have to figure this thing out right now. You feel like X, Y. Z terrible thing is going to happen. And you still have to go to work and
And
you still have to go to dinner.
you still gotta show
So,
up, man. You still
yeah,
gotta make that
it's
dinner.
like,
You still
you
gotta,
know,
let the dogs out. Like you can't quit. You can't, there is no quitting.
hmm hmm yeah. Well,
I feel that. I feel that, Brett.
yeah. Oh, um, I guess then, like for the Julie that did know that she had OCD, that was kind of struggling her whole life on some capacity, like if you could go back now and say something to her, what would that be?
Oh man, I would tell her it's not her fault. It's not your fault that you're wired like this. It's not your fault that you have OCD. Life's gonna be tough. You're gonna have some blocks and some mountains to climb, but you can do it. And I mean, there was a point in my life when I didn't think I could. And it's I had to reach deep down into my soul and honestly just let my soul carry on, regardless of, that curtain, regardless of the chemical wash. My soul has something in it, and that's what I'm going to rely on.
Mhm.
And I would go back and I would tell her, trust your soul. You can do hard things and you'll be okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
You got a face on like
What'd you say?
your face is like
No, I mean I think it's beautiful. I think it's, it sounds, it sounds powerful, and I feel moved now, like just trying not to get teary-eyed, misty-eyed
oh,
during the interview, you know. But yeah, I think we all need to be reminded of that. Even if you don't have OCD, you
even if
know,
you don't have OCD, you should, every once in a while, you should do a little soul searching.
definitely. Oh, well, we're kind of at the end here, but I guess kind of the last question that I wanted to ask you is, if somebody were to ask you, they're brand new to to ERP, or just even knowing what OCD is, thinking that they might have it, anything like that, brand new to the community, what would be like three resources that you would give them as like that have been helpful for you, or that you just think are really helpful?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the IOCDF organization. So, the International OCD Foundation,
Mhm.
um, for information, even too, like they have so many things on OCD, what OCD can look like. Because I know for me, when mine switched to the harm thoughts, I'm like, is this part of OCD or am I just actually a serial killer? We don't know.
Mm.
So that had a lot of information that, of what OCD can look like because it can take many forms, many themes, many compulsions. So a lot of information about what OCD is and the treatment for it. Two would be to find an ERP therapist.
Mm.
Um, Talk therapy is not going to do it for you. It's you got to face your fears and you got to do it in the right way and with the right people. So definitely right therapist. Um, and three, in my journey, honestly, I would say meditation has
Mm.
helped me a lot. Um, it really just gives you a safe space to be with your thoughts, let them be there, and just breathe through it. Because when we have all these thoughts and we're going crazy about it, and you don't you like stop breathing. You like I can't I don't know what to do right now. So
Yeah.
meditation has helped me a lot. Really just be able to sit there and just breathe through them. And I think that kind of takes away the power from them too.
Mhm.
Um, and I've done a lot of work on forgiveness and meditation because that's a huge part of OCD too that I don't think people realize is OCD will take every bad thing you've ever done in your life and throw it immediately in your face.
Yeah.
Like just right in your face. And the guilt and the shame and the confessions and everything that come
Oh.
out of that, it's hard. It's hard to carry the burden of guilt also. So
Mhm.
I use meditation a lot for that as well to help me forgive myself
Mm.
past mistakes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, even just a community, even just hanging out with you on game night, talking about Lord of the Rings, like that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. No, no, those are great. Yeah, IOCDF is awesome. Meditation is so helpful. Just
Yeah.
yeah, again, being in the present moment, you're not if you're in the present, just being with it, you're not doing that thing, you're not on the
Yeah, the
hamster
wheel's
wheel.
spinning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, Julie, really thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Again, I'm really grateful that you reached out to me. I don't think that I would have done anything like this otherwise. But when I saw the message, I was like, oh, yes, this is great. So thank you for pushing me to do that and being willing to be honest about your experience, because it's not easy. So yeah, I just want to
well, thank you
honor
for having me and thank you for sharing your experience too. I mean, I was in tears listening to your your first video.
that.
So, I mean, you've been through it as well and you're coming out stronger than ever and that's a real inspiration to people too. So,
Yeah,
I
it's
appreciate
possible.
appreciate it. It's possible. If I can leave anybody with a quote, I think it would be you're stronger than you think and you're braver than you imagine.
Mm,
And sometimes you don't realize that until you get tested, but it's okay.
hmm
You got to be
hmm
made differently sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes you just have to have a Sam Gamgee help carry you up the
Oh,
mountain.
oh, goals in life, be a Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah. Or just even have a Samwise in my
Even just
life.
have someone. Absolutely. Oh man, that would be incredible.
Oh, jeez. Oh, well, thanks again, and yeah, I look forward to maybe having some future conversations. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.